Okay, so I've got it 4 minutes past. Let's get started. Okay. Welcome to our information session. I think some of you may have attended the session just before Christmas when Somerset County Council went through some of the information that we knew about the holiday activities programme then. My name's Nancy Murdoch. I've got Jane Knowles with me as well today. So together we're going to hopefully lead you through the little bit more information we have about what we expect Easter to look like for this year's holiday activities programme. So just to give you a little bit of an overview, the funding has come from, I'm sure most of you have been aware through the news, Marcus Rashford's campaign around holiday hunger. The Department of Education has put in £220 million into this scheme, which has been separated down into the counties, and Somerset County Council have been allocated 1.6 million in order to roll out this programme. The programme will be for Easter time. It will be 2 weeks in the summer and also then for Christmas this year, or I nearly said next year, this year. Somerset County Council will act as the make the grant panel decisions, and that will become clear a little bit later. And as Somerset Activity and Sports Partnership, our role is to coordinate the distribution of the funds to the providers in Somerset. So that's why you're here, and that's why you're seeing myself and Jane today. So just to give you a little bit of background, school holidays can be a real pressure point for some families because of the increased costs such as food and childcare and reduced incomes. Therefore, families on low incomes are less likely to access organised out-of-school activities. They're more likely to experience unhealthy holidays in terms of nutrition and physical health. And they're more likely to experience social isolation. I just need to let somebody in. Okay, I've put up here a map. This will be shared with you. The slides are going to be shared with you, so don't feel like you need to frantically take a photo of this. This is the information that we're able to share with you about where some of the children are across our county that access the benefits related free school meals. And so you can see where the main populations are and where that will go. And as a focus, those are the main places that we'll be making sure that we do have provision covering those areas. Okay, so thinking more specifically now about Easter, because that's really close. We're looking to provide 2,500 opportunities across Somerset per day. And we'll be using a variety of statutory, voluntary and private sector organisations to do that. It's a grants-based programme, and we'll go through a little bit more about the process in a little bit. And the idea will be to link children and young people into services and further opportunities going forward. So it's not a standalone scheme. Just to be really clear, so the Easter provision dates would be the 6th of April through to the 16th of April. And that should exclude any bank holidays. Okay, so here is what we know about the programme. So the idea of the programme is going to be to support children and young people aged between 5 and 16 years. We want the outcomes of the programme to be around eating more healthily over the school holidays. And that will be around providing a hot meal or a balanced meal for the children who come to the provision. To be more active during the school holidays, which will be to achieve a minimum of 60 active minutes during the day. To take part in engaging and enriching activities which support the development of resilience, character and well-being along with their wider educational attainment. I need to let somebody else. To be safe and not to be socially isolated, and to have greater knowledge of health and nutrition, and to be more engaged with school and other local services. Much of what we found from schemes that have happened across the rest of the country is that where these schemes have been in place, children are better able to access their education when they go back after the school holidays. And obviously they've been given some enriching opportunities through the holidays, which is much better for their well-being. Okay, so here is the Easter delivery plan that we are working to, and partly because of the COVID situation and partly because of understanding how we can best service the whole of the county, we've got 3 ways that we'd like to deliver. And that is face-to-face delivery, which I think most of us will be really familiar with in terms of providing holiday provision. We're going to be running a live virtual programme, which will be bookable and supported with meal boxes that are able to get home. And we're also going to have an online offer, which will be able to be a set of resources that families will be able to access ongoing and be able to do without necessarily engaging in formal provision as in face-to-face. Okay, so for the face-to-face delivery, so it's school-age children that are eligible for benefits-related free school meals will have their place funded. It is possible for other people to join into the scheme and pay for their place, but specifically what I'm talking about now is around providing for those children who are eligible for the benefits-related free school meals. The provision will be for 4 hours a day for 4 days a week and needs to supply ideally a hot meal every day. It says we can consider if hot meal is not something that you're able to provide, then we can look at other options, but it needs to be nutritionally balanced and school quality. So it says that, and we need to provide physical activity for the hour a day. And like I said, enrichment activities. There will be monitoring and evaluation information that you'll need to support throughout the programme, and obviously policies and procedures in place to make sure that it is safe and high quality provision that we're supplying. Like I say, there will be training support available where needed, and we are looking for opportunities to work with other network providers. So that's something that we can think about as we move forward. So thinking about the announcement that was made yesterday, myself and the team have had a look at what does that mean in terms of being able to go face to face with the children at Easter. And the position that we've been able to find from the information that we can gather at this stage is that where the provision is going to allow parents to provide that wraparound care, where carers need to be at work or attend education, then we absolutely fall into that. Added to that, the vulnerable children will already be attending settings regardless of their personal circumstances. And so for that reason, we are also able to provide a service because these are the children that need to access these meals and part of the holiday activity fund programme. We will obviously have to keep in mind that things may change, but that's the position we're in right now. We just need to be able to demonstrate that we are providing a COVID safe structure for these children to take part in. Okay, so some of the minimum operating standards that we'll need to provide evidence for when applying for grant funding will be public liability insurance, risk assessments to include COVID, which is especially relevant for now, policy and procedures that will remain in place for COVID secure participants and for staff members, equality and diversity policy, health and safety policy, safeguarding and child protection policy, enhanced DBS certificates for your staff, a volunteer policy is desirable, and if necessary, if you're going to be serving or handling food in any way, then the food hygiene level 2 certificate. And the last one, not relevant for schools, but for other organisations, some financial records, just to make sure that we are giving grant aid to a going concern. Okay, so that was the face-to-face delivery. Thinking then about the live virtual delivery. We want to be able to provide a really flexible offer. So whilst we may have an opportunity local to us to access something, maybe a school facility or a local leisure centre, we want to be able to provide some choice. And we also want to be able to have a greater reach across the county. And we also recognise that some families will still not feel comfortable coming out or they may be shielding or need to think about their provision being handled within the home. So the idea will be that there will be a food collection point that we'll make available. And then we'll be looking for providers that can maybe supply around an hour and a half of a live virtual delivery. And I've just put some categories down there that we may be looking for in terms of filling a programme. What we'd really like to be able to do is have a menu for each day that the children will be able to book onto just for a short time, and then they'll be able to access some of the online resources for the rest of the day, having had something to do in the morning or in the afternoon. And then the online offer. And so this is really to everybody, especially those who have been delivering through COVID. If you've got resources that can be made available that you're happy to share with those who have low technology access, we're looking to share and reference any online materials or PDFs that could be used as part of an activity library. And we'd like that local family workers and people like that will be able to work with the specific families who maybe aren't able to offer to access a virtual offer because of their technology that they've got available, and be able to print off ahead of the Easter holidays activities that the family could do themselves without access to technology. Okay, thinking about marketing opportunities. We will be producing a logo banner. We are still working on a name. We don't like Holiday Activities Fund, but it is a working title that we've got right now. You will be required to do some of your own marketing, and we do expect that you'll be working hard with your local networks to fill the spaces that you say that you're going to fill. But that will also be linking into the network that Somerset Activity and Sport Partnership can support with. We will be reaching into schools to use the places and make sure that those, ideally all of the places that we make available, are taken up. The opportunities will be sent to children on free school meals, but you are allowed to make it available to those outside of free school meals. We do ask, if you are doing face-to-face delivery, that is not obvious those children who are receiving free school meals and those who aren't. And so one of the ways of handling this would be to supply a meal as part of the provision that parents will pay for, or choose to opt out and supply their own packed lunch. But that way it won't be clear just which children are accessing the free school meal package. Activities will be made available through our online activity finder and through the published materials that we'll be able to send out through social media, etc. Okay, so how are you going to get involved? So the grants programme is now live. Hopefully you may have received an email. It went live last week. The closing date is on Monday, the 1st of March. I've put the link up there, and I can share it in the chat just once I finish if you haven't got that or haven't seen that yet. We do totally appreciate that the timescales are tight. It isn't something that we've had on our desks very long. We have done a very quick turnaround to try and get it to this place as just as quickly as we can. And we do understand that you are working just as hard as we are to put some of these grants together. The grants panel are going to meet on the 4th of March, and we will get the decisions about the grants that we are awarding out from the week beginning the 8th of March. On our website, we've got some frequently asked questions, and again, we might deal with some of those in just a minute, but we will also make that available after this meeting. And of course, you can come back to us if you've got any questions that you need answering. Okay, I think I've done that. I tried not to go too fast, but I will come off of this presentation so that I can see the questions in the chat, and we'll go from there. It is so strange to deliver to a blank screen. Right, where is the chat? Okay, I'm going to go right back to the beginning. Oh yes, okay, so Jane has put in the chat there that it is 1 week at Easter, ideally, although we could deliver across the week. So we'll be looking for you, if you are doing face-to-face delivery, to provide for 4 days in one of the weeks. You don't need to provide in both of the weeks. It's 4 weeks, not 2. They're over the summer, and 1 week at Christmas. Q&A, John, is that quality assurance?
Yes, Nancy.
Right, thank you, John. Okay, so the main processes that we've got in place right now are around meeting the minimum operating standards, and that's what we've got right now, essentially. Jane, if you want to jump in with anything you have more specific.
Yeah, so we're just pulling together the service level agreement for those that are successful with grant aid. and that will have so the things that we are looking for around some case studies, and we have got members of our team who will visit some provision to get some of that and do some quality assurance. A lot of the quality assurance will be done in terms of having policies and things at this stage, but there will be a little bit of extra quality assurance. We are paddling like mad, and so we know many of the providers already, and we understand that many of you are quality providers already, but we hope in the summer to increase capacity of our providers. So it's a work in progress, I'm going to say, the service level agreement, the quality assurance processes, and they will be made very, very clear in the service level agreement.
Thank you, Jane. Also picked up was some of the information says £17.50, and I referenced £17. It is just a guide. We wanted to give a little bit of a framework to know that it would cover what we expect provision to cost. If your provision is going to cost less, then great. If it's going to cost more, then you need to be able to articulate just what added benefit that's going to bring. But we do recognise that it's very difficult to be able to provide on a set cost. So that's why we provided a guide. Is there a maximum of 4 hours a day? So if you want to provide more than 4 hours a day as part of your programme, you are able to do that. It's just that the funding will cover the 4 hours of a day. And we can't fund any more than 4 hours of a day. Please can you discuss how 4 hours per day works for family activities and not childcare?
Do you want me?
Yeah, my take on that is, does that mean if they are needing to go to work but 4 hours doesn't fit with a family working? Is that your take on it, Jane?
Can I say?
Yes.
I think I've spoken to you, Nancy, that we provide family activities where the parents, the carers, come along with the children, rather than the parents or carers drop off their children and then the children stay for the activity. And it would just be interesting to see if there are any other organisations that run the family activities, and any ideas for how you extend that to 4 hours without the parents getting bored.
Yeah, we did have a discussion, didn't we, Sue? In terms of things that we can maybe supply to do outside of the contact session around some things and bits and pieces like that, didn't we? But yeah, I guess we'll pick that up in a frequently asked question.
One of the things that is a requirement is that some family nutrition once in a 4-day period, and it's whether there is capacity so for parents to be able to do that away from their children, so that they are perhaps doing some nutritional stuff. I don't know, just it is hard for 4 hours.
John also commented about the bubble activities, i.e. no more than 15 children. Yeah, yes, we do need to follow the guidelines for the bubble activities. It may be that some schools are going to be providing activity and may have existing bubble structures that they can use. It might be that they merge some bubbles, and if you're outside of any of the school provision, you could potentially be bringing children across from different bubbles to join it for a few days. These are things that we absolutely need to build into the risk assessment about how we're going to do that safely. But yes, there isn't a way of getting around the bubble related to COVID in terms of increasing the ratios. Not sure about crossing. I think we kind of covered that with bubbles and the range of children. Absolutely understand and appreciate that we're in that situation. It is something that I guess we're going to ask you individually to take a look at how you would mitigate that risk. But like I just said, we totally recognise if you're going to collapse bubbles from a couple of schools to provide provision and coming together, that does represent a risk. 4 hours a day, does that mean qualify? So Steve, if it was going to be less than 4 days, you may be looking to tie up with somebody else to provide an enrichment opportunity. So for the face-to-face, it does need to be 4 hours, 4 days. But if you aren't able to do that, it may be that we could merge something locally with something else that's going on potentially, so that there is enrichment there.
Nancy, can I ask the question, because I think it's relevant to that? if somebody wanted to have a 2-day offer and then a 2-day virtual, how would that play?
We hadn't considered that before, had we? I think that some of the things we'd want to consider are where is it based, and do we really need that offer, and does it make sense to do the 2 days face-to-face and 2 days virtual? If it does, then I don't think I would have a problem with that.
Yeah. So Steve, it's not a no if you wanted to do something slightly more creative than 4 days face-to-face, but know that actually our preference, because of the feedback that we're getting, is that as many children get some face-to-face contact as possible. Would that be fair, Nancy?
Yes, absolutely. Our preference, even though we're going to have a live virtual offer, is still for the face-to-face. It's just, like I say, recognising, for all the reasons we've just identified, that it's going to be very difficult this Easter to reach that number of places solely face-to-face. Same kind of question. Can we spread the 4 hours and 4 days across the 2 weeks? So I think the intention behind the 4 hours and 4 days is that you're going to have the same children attend for the 4 hours and 4 days. So I don't think there's any reason why it couldn't be across the 2 weeks. I would just wonder about the retention and making sure it's not a separate cohort each time. I think that's the intention behind it. But in terms of, in theory, is that allowed? I would go for it probably is allowed. You agree, Jane?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And you run 2 weeks to Easter. So the funding is, like I say, for the 4 days is how we're looking at it. Although we are looking to give some coverage with the live virtual offer across 2 weeks, I would operate it in potentially as 2 separate grant applications, or 2 separate grant sets, even if it's in the same application, and then we could look at that. And just to be clear, what I mean is, so the kids, we're not paying for a child to attend for 8 days. It would be 2 separate cohorts. If the government guidelines change just before Easter and then become reluctant, how much clawback will there be? Oh, I will hand over for Jane to do that. I will just say, in Essex, just before Christmas, I think they had 36 hours notice, they had to go from face-to-face to virtual. So we are aware of lots of places across the country where they've had to switch quite last minute, and we totally recognise it is a possibility that it may happen. Jane, do you want to handle this bit?
Yeah, so we have said that providers will be able, successful grant aid will be able to keep 10% of their grant, even if they have to cancel, and within that we obviously would like them to switch to virtual where they can, but yeah, we recognise that if there was a sudden change of guideline and we end up back at lockdown and everybody's done a huge amount of work for the face-to-face, that we would allow 10% of that grant to remain with the provider.
Well, hopefully that answers the question. Can we have more than 100 children? If you can safely cater for more than 100 children, then there isn't a reason for that.
Can I add to that to say that actually Nancy shared the map of the main, there are lots of children in lots of small villages, but the main towns where all the where people with free school meals are mainly clustered, and obviously there needs to be there will be some alignment of how much we grant aid, and obviously the value that we think that brings, and whether 100, whether you can find 100 children on free school meals for 100 places, and we will look at each application on its merits. I just wanted to put a question mark there, because obviously we want to have provision right across.
Yes, it's across the county that we need to make sure we've got places. Okay, Clive says, for applicants provision at several schools around Somerset, should we make separate application for each school? And I'm just trying to think about the application form, and is there a capacity on it to show that it's in different areas? I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah, hopefully, Clive, that you should be able to do that, because obviously you don't want to provide your documents if you're in the same academy trust more than once, really. If you find that you do need to do it, then because there's not room on the form, I'm sure you could cluster them for us, and we could make that. But ostensibly, yeah, we would take, if you can fit it all on the form, we would take several schools within an academy trust on one form. The form's not necessarily being built for that, but we will, that will be a learning thing for Nancy and I as we go forward.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Craig, I might need you to expand. What's the minimum hours? If Craig is still here, you can unmute.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I heard people mention earlier that the maximum hours was 4. The maximum was 4 hours.
For the yes, for the face-to-face delivery, it is the model is for 4 days and 4 hours.
Yeah. So it's 4 hours, not it's not a maximum. It is 4 hours.
It is 4 hours. It may be slightly confused, like I say, because we're looking at the live virtual offer and we're not expecting people to deliver live through the screen for 4 hours, which is why we've reduced it down a little bit. But for face-to-face delivery, it is the 4 hours.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so a little bit more about the training. So in fact, that's been a task for me this week, putting together some resources about where we'll be able to support some providers with training that they maybe haven't had to access before, that may be online or as a virtual set of resources that you'll be able to use and support. I think it asks for it in the form if there's something you know that you need some support with, and that we'll be able to put those things together. Some of the things that we're looking at will be around the core when we're operating standards like first aid, risk assessments, some of the stuff that you'll be really familiar with, and adding to that stuff around well-being, inclusion, or some of the other stuff, Jane, I'm just forgotten off the top of my head.
Sorry, I was just saving bits of the chat, sorry. Training wise, yeah, so we'll be doing a little bit on, so we'll make sure that you have access if you want to the level 2 food, hygiene. Young Somerset will do some things on mental health, and all the sports leader and volunteer stuff that Nancy does online, and that will be a continuous programme as we go forward. What I would say, if there are things that you as providers would like, we'd be really interested to know, and we'd really like you to tell us, and we will try and access as much as we can so that you have the support that you need to have a quality programme.
Great, thank you. And John is asking about how quickly will the advice come out around the physical activity guidelines and how we're going to do it. So we have had some further advice today, and often if you're on Twitter, the PE groups and things like that, they often have some of the most up-to-date advice very quickly, and we regularly retweet and share that. I think that will need to be something that I will take away from here, that we need to be able to keep providers in the loop with the latest thinking around physical activity and the risk assessment. But going back to where we are about if we can even operate, yes, we're in a position where we can, because we are offering, 1, the wraparound care, and 2, this is the vulnerable children. So whilst we need to operate with COVID guidelines and safely thinking, and if it is a case of bringing bubbles together, it will be socially distanced. And I should say that's one of the training needs that we've got. We have delivered socially distant games with schools. Those are things that we can help you with. How do you maintain social distance? So we'll keep you updated. I think we need to make that note about just how we can disseminate the information as we get it. Going to give an yes, so food is definitely not mine and Jane's strong point. So the advice that we're given, and certainly when I'm hearing it from the other areas around the country that are looking at, is it is a hot meal like you might get at school. It is a balanced meal that would meet the nutritional guidelines. There are none, right to say, Jane, there are no specifics within the guidance that tell us what it must and must not include, but it does ask that it's hot, I guess, thinking that this might be their main meal of the day.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
and we will be providing guidance on if providing food is not something that you're comfortable with doing, we will be providing some information on providers of food that you could talk to.
Yes, so we're trying to make those links, and we'll be supporting the grant applicants with that if they need it. It does make room for that on the form to say that you do need some support with that. Hopefully that answers. As an example, I would think it may be something to do with pasta, rice, or baked potato. Those sorts of things would be off the top of my head around what it might look like. Is there any more information about the virtual workshops? What platforms you're looking, or will the individual providers determine that? So yes, we would be happy that individual providers can use their platforms, and where they have booking systems already in existence, we'll be largely looking to use those to pull that together. And I think that pretty much answers the question. Yeah, there's no requirement to use a different platform than you're familiar with. How are we to do parent care and nutrition, extra time, space, planning, supervision? Really good question, and we have been talking about this. I think that we are understanding that with the timescales for Easter, this may be on the would be lovely if category, and we are still looking for that. But I think it may be that we need to understand of more of a summer goal around how we build this in, partly because of COVID and partly because of the tight turnarounds in time. But if and where we can include some education around nutrition and support for families, this will be something that we'll be really looking to see how it goes, because we need to be able to share that in the summer. Does that answer that, Jane?
Yeah, I think that, and I think, Craig, that you're right. There will be very many young people who don't want their adults at their project, and I think that we will be looking at how we do some of the nutritional stuff, because that might be something that goes home as some educational pieces for parents, or it might be some collateral that's created, or it might even be done virtually. And if we find that it's a real problem, it's maybe that, we provide centrally, virtually, for people to cook or learn a little bit more about food centrally rather than through projects, which might be another. But like Nancy said, that really is something that we are grappling with at the moment. It came out of nowhere, out of the guidance.
Lenka raises a question about, and I think, Lenka, if I interpret it wrong, please correct me, but I think it implies that wouldn't it be better that you could have 4 different children attend, so that more children could access, I guess, one day of provision and a meal? Is that what you mean, Lenka?
Yes. So, hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, because you're implying that you're going to have the same cohort for 4 hours for 4 days. So what I'm saying is, surely it's better to have different children, so you're reaching more people. Yeah, different children for each day.
Yeah, I understand. So I understand. So the 4 hours and 4 days is the guidance that's given by the Department for Education for this funding, recognising that in order to provide the high quality enrichment opportunities and food support that they want these children to have, is where the 4 days comes from. So they do want them to have some commitment and engage with the programme over the 4 days. But I do absolutely take your point of giving 4 children a chance in one place to have access to it, therefore accessing one day would cover more. But that isn't the brief of this programme, I suppose I would say right now.
Yeah, I mean, because we're currently running maximum 15 in a session. So, you're not reaching, in Frome, we've got just under 900 free school meal children. According to our figures at Fair Frome, I'm not sure that who run the food bank. Yes. And so to me, it should be about reaching. I don't know if you can feed this back to them, because we
absolutely are. In fact, if you do the maths and you divide the 1.6 million by the roughly 13,500 children that are currently eligible for the school meals, it doesn't go very far. One thing that I will just say is that this programme, whilst it's going to go some way to providing part solution to holiday hunger, the main focus is around this enrichment, and what they want us to do is to focus on the quality rather than the quantity. And like I say, Jane and I can reassure you, we have taken it back that the funding doesn't go far enough if the idea is to give every child who's eligible a hot meal.
Yeah.
Is that what
Okay.
it is?
Yeah. Well, I understand that. I mean, we already offer hot meals 3 times a week, every week of the year. So yeah, it's just, yeah, obviously this is great. It's a step, isn't it? Like you say.
Yeah, so we are working alongside understanding whether or not there can be voucher provision for families who don't choose to take up on this, and that's something we're still waiting to find out about.
Right.
But at the moment, as we understand it, this will be the way that families can access some food and activities.
Okay. Are the government are they giving vouchers for the Easter holidays as previously? Do you know?
Yes, they are.
They
Yes,
are.
This is on top of vouchers.
On top of, yeah, because every time we seem to have a, you know,
A
they're
last
not
minute
going to a last minute U-turn if
Yeah.
Marcus Rashford kicks off. Okay, thank you.
Okay. 4 hours does include a break for food. Steve, I think that covers what you put in there.
Yeah, I just, to go back with Steve, I think that Lenka's thing is where you're at. So you're talking about 4 different days for 4 different sets of children, and that we would want to see the same children for 4 days of the holiday. I think that's what we're saying, isn't it, Nancy?
That's right. That's the intention behind the funding.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
There was a school applying. Can we then? Oh yeah. Okay. So if you're a school applying and you have a member of staff that's able to deliver it, then yes, absolutely, that's something that you can organise yourself. There's no requirement to use any other providers than you would choose to do that. And yes, you can ask a local voluntary group to produce the food, obviously accepting the standards that it would need to meet, and the hygiene behind that. But yes, absolutely, you can do that. Are there Ofsted implications? So I have made a link to this in the provision. Effectively, for delivering 4 hours with the age group that we're talking about, we don't. It's not required that any Ofsted registration. If you were going to be delivering more like a full day worth of care, then you may well come into the Ofsted implications. And I would say that if that is you're unlikely, if you don't have Ofsted registration, to get that for Easter. So I would urge you to focus away from the boundaries of requiring Ofsted registration. Yes, idea cards for meals would be brilliant. We are going to be looking at various food resources, and all of those sorts of things would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, it's fine. So if you can't make Easter, if it's really too tight for you, there's no problem. If actually summer is a better date for you, then go for that. Obviously, we are really keen that we get Easter sorted and as our priority right now, but it really isn't a problem. You won't be disadvantaged in any way for not providing at Easter.
Can I just talk to Steve Marnes's point that, Steve, I know that you already do a fantastic play day, and the thing that you might want to require funding for is extra funding for food, and actually you could apply to HAF for that, just the provision around food, if you just wanted to add that in amongst the play days that are already costed in to your budget. I don't know whether that's relevant to you or not, but it is relevant perhaps to providers that if you're already providing, then you can cost in just elements of the programme, which might be food, or if you provide food, you might want to just cost in elements of activity.
Okay, can I answer that? Is that all right, Jane? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That's very generous, and that's fine. I mean, Easter's just too soon for us. We've got too many people out doing vaccination rollout and other stuff. So realistically, that isn't going to happen. But we do schools out, and we do play days, and we can discuss with Nancy or yourself how we can make that work. That is already 4 hours schools out, i.e. under Ofsted regs, 1 hour 59 minutes actually, but we're okay with that. So that's fine, and we can talk to you about that, and that's probably for outside this meeting, so I don't want to go on. Thanks for the offer.
Thanks, Steve.
Caroline makes a point that some nutritional family cooking would be really valuable, and yet that's kind of the intention behind where it will be expanding to. We are trying to look at whether we can provide something locally or virtually at Easter, but yeah, we're still working on that one. It's an area for expansion for us. We already covered Ofsted. Oh, so this is a question about should they charge by per child or for the 4-hour program? So is it a cost per child that they're the places that they'll provide, or whether it's a cost to deliver the program? I think that's what is meant, Marion. So for the 4-hour face-to-face delivery, then we would be asking you to show your costings by per child, and then what that is that you'll be asking in terms of the grant. So the fund, how many places will the funding cover? So if we were to provide a virtual workshop, how many participants would be expected to take part? I am happy that we leave that to either what you're used to doing or what you feel comfortable with. I've had some contact with various virtual workshop providers, and it goes between holding 20 because that's suitable for the activity that they're doing, and some are saying up to 300 because of the activity that they're doing. So we would be able to look at all of that. Does the fee include a budget for food? So we are actually looking for the virtual providers that we will help support with some food boxes, and looking at a retail partner to support us with that, recognising that if you're just delivering for an hour and a half and they might access a few different things through the week, it's not any one virtual provider's responsibility to get the food to them. Do the participants need to be local? Yes, they need to be Somerset, if that's what you mean by local. And the provider of the virtual workshop does not have to be from Somerset. They could be from anywhere across the world if they felt that they wanted to do it. We are really keen to support local businesses, especially after the year that we've all had, and that's certainly something that we are taking into consideration with this, with the grant applications. Okay, so on to summer already. We are very much on a steep learning curve right now about how much time we need as a lead-in. I'm not going to be able to give you a date about when we're going to get the summer applications in. You'll need to probably just hold on until we've run Easter, but as soon as we do know what our schedules need to be, we'll be sharing it in much the similar way that we did before. And I would make sure that we've got everyone's contact details here and add them to the list so that we can make sure you get that information just as soon as we have it. Okay, I think the questions about mixing and matching and how it's going to work, I think we may need to share, like save those to have a more specific discussion with myself, I guess, to think about how that's going to work. But then it says, can we get funding to make projects inclusive for all? Absolutely. Inclusion is a huge part of what needs to happen, and some of the training if needed to support access for children who have SEN or autistic spectrum disorders. So yes, if you require additional funding to support that provision, then that's absolutely something that you can put in for. Can we engage people with their friends who are not on free school meals? So friends that are not on free school meals are able to attend, but we won't be funding their places. I think that answers it. I think I've got to the bottom of the questions.
I think you have. Any more?
For any more. I hope that it has been useful. I recognise it maybe feels a little bit like a whirlwind tour, much as the same as myself and Jane have been on the last few weeks as we tried to get to grips with this programme. I would ask, please bear with us, and we do, like I say, absolutely understand we are asking tight timescales and quite a lot of information in a relatively short space of time.
Nancy, could we just save the chat as well before we?
Yes, before I exit. Yes, I will do that. I don't know how, but I will work that out. Okay, got lots of thank yous. Thank you, because it's very strange talking to a screen of blank squares. And I tried to go nice and evenly paced so that because sometimes I have a habit of talking a bit fast. If you do have any questions ahead of the Monday deadline, you have got access to my email. That is on the email that went out before. But if there's nothing else, I think we can head on with our evening.
So I'll pop the slides on the website. The recording of this will be available hopefully in the next 2 days, but hopefully tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
If you've just put a question in the chat and want to hold on for me to answer it, I will answer that for you. But thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thanks very much. It was really helpful. Really clear. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've got from Marion, I think just came in, can nature-based activities be considered? Yes, absolutely. Enrichment of all types, for a school or however you're thinking about nature, absolutely it can be considered. Encouraged, I think.
When you say Monday, is it all day Monday?
It's end of day Monday, 5 o'clock, I think it says. 5 o'clock Monday.
Yeah, but we'd accept Monday. We won't be picking them up till Tuesday, Andrew. So if that's helpful for you.
Yeah, if that extra bit makes a difference. Thank you. Can we link up with,
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, you are.
absolutely. Can you link up with other providers to increase opportunities? Absolutely, and encouraged that we'll be able to provide that. It's something when we sketched out what does it look like, we were keen that actually other providers could maybe visit a provision in order to provide some enrichment and a change of scenery, or however it needs to be described. But yes, absolutely, you can link up with other providers. I think.
Sorry to butt in voice-wise. Did you say you were sending the slides?
Yes, I'll put them on the website.
And will it be? Sorry to be thick, but it'll be dead obvious, hopefully. And
Yes.
and the website to apply, the address to apply.
Yeah, you'll
Yes,
find the online form on the website.
Brilliant. Thanks
I
ever
can
so much.
actually pop that into the chat if you would like, and then you can have it now.
Yeah.
And then if you click on it once it's there, then
Okay.
it will take you to that page.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Mute myself.
Can you put us in touch with other providers doing family activities so we can share ideas? So if this is something that you're looking at, then we have got key partners we're working with, and we will do our best to try and match you up together. Can you offer just primary age children? Good question, and I probably should have made that clear. Yes, so you can just provide to primary age if you choose, secondary age, a mixture of both. You can be specific about who you're providing to. Good question, Marion. I should have probably have said that when everyone was still here. Can SAS provide a way to find those providers to discuss joint working? Well, that's something that we're trying to do, Craig, around understanding where the gaps are. So some of the form will ask, who do you maybe need to partner up with? And we're hoping that through that process, we'll start to see where that will happen. And also some of this extension work is now, like, we're gathering information intelligence really rapidly. So we will definitely be looking at where we can put those together. If you want to make sure it says in your form where you're keen to make joint working happen, then we'll do our best to do that for you.
Sorry, I just want to say really quickly to Craig that we are trying to build on our website really quickly those people who have who just want to provide enrichment for an hour or so that people can do that, and that's the way in which people can work together to pull together a 4-hour offer too.
I think I pasted the link into just one person and now I've made it available to everybody. Does it cover early years? No, this doesn't cover early years, this particular set of funding. I did see in another area's presentation that should younger children turn up, that they wouldn't expect them to be turned away, but I'm not going to say that. I think that's too hard to manage in terms of how it's going to work, particularly through COVID. So no, it doesn't cover early years. Yes, a virtual workshop could be 30 minutes. We are looking obviously to meet the government recommendation of an hour of physical activity, but if yours is comfortable around 30 minutes for the type that you're doing and you want to join that together with an art and craft idea, I think that would be a really good idea.
Sorry, could I just ask if Jane's email is the same as yours, Nancy?
Yeah.
It doesn't have a 1 in it or a 6 or
anything? No.
Okay, right. I just want to email you about the training. Thanks very much.
Good, thanks, Andrew.
Great, thank you. Right, if there are no other questions, or you want to come off, not use the chat, but now we have a very small number. If you want to just ask a question, you can unmute yourself. You're welcome. then I think we may well be done.
Sorry, quick question about the virtual workshop. Sorry, I'm slightly fascinated by this, obviously, as a digital organisation, and having used it a lot over the
organisation. Sorry, Deb.
So I'm from Somerset Film. We run the engine room in Bridgewater, and just thinking about kind of the virtual workshops, and are there kind of key times for running these kind of activities?
So I think it would be fair to say that we can be led a little bit, because I have never put together a live virtual program before. In my head, I was thinking that I would schedule maybe 2 to 3 in a day that would give a menu of different opportunities so that you could attend a couple in a day if you chose. But if it works for you, that you know that would be a particularly good time, then I think we can accommodate that. But I was thinking if we did sort of a morning session starting at 10, and then maybe something starting around 1:30, and then there's potentially room for something a little bit later on in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But can be really flexible about that.
Sorry to jump in on that. I just want to say we ran a load through lockdown 1, and our best book sessions were 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. if that's of any help.
Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Really helpful.
And I know Alice. I invited Alice. My daughter attended one of her science parties online, which is why I saw that this thing existed, because a lot of this you wouldn't know necessarily unless you're in that. Okay, yeah. So the film and stuff, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of potential, and also because we've got a studio that we can live stream from, it can be that I can safely bring in 2 or 3 different practitioners who can then live stream, and we've got the facilities for our camera crew to be completely separate, so it can be COVID secure for the artists as well. So
yeah. And we'd love to support Somerset business, so that would be great.
Wonderful, thank you. I shall certainly be trying to put together an offer for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm in Taunton, so I'd be very interested in joining up if you fancy having some explosions happening in your studio at some point soon.
That's amazing, Alice. I'll put my email in the chat.
That sounds brilliant. Yeah, there we go. I would say, well, those who are left, I know that Alice emailed me and she made herself available to be one of those kind of pop-in type facilities that could come to another provider locally to Taunton, as well as maybe providing something virtually herself. So I think that sort of networking will happen now, and I think that'll be brilliant.
Can I just say that's exactly what I'm sort of thinking we'll need, because I'm sort of thinking, we can probably put in some staff to set something up and run, but if we can have someone come in and do some explosions and pop up things, that'd be so great, especially if we can add a bit of variety as well. So and also it means we've got additional people around to be involved. So if we can, if there's some sort of way of providing on your site, say what area you're in, are you interested in, what can you offer, I'm available for this, or we're providing this, it might be just really useful for everyone, because otherwise some people might be quite a small provider and thinking I can't really do anything, but I would like to do something or contribute something.
We've definitely thought about that. It's the speed of the build, Craig, that would, but Amy's on the call. Amy, if you could make a note of that and make it a priority, if you're able to build that on our website ASAP, would be really useful, because I think Sarah will struggle with time.
We have just, if it didn't go out already, it's due to go out, some social media around if you're able to provide even like that sort of enrichment opportunity alongside that. We've asked organisations to get in touch. If it hasn't gone out, it's about to, as a starter to how do we build that up. But yeah, it is, like Jane says, it's the speed we're working at rather than
it's not perfect for Easter, but we're hoping that all these things will get us to a place where summer looks delightful.
I think that's the case for us. I think it's
brilliant.
Yeah,
a lot.
It's a lot.
It is a lot
in a short time, isn't it? I think
it is a lot. It really is.
Even things like just like the food hygiene, or do we need to have the council's approval and all those sort of questions, like do we need to have a food standard rating or something like that in a place?
So we can answer those questions for you, and no, you don't need a food standard rating. What you actually need is if you are going to handle food, a level 2 food hygiene, which you can do online.
Yeah, I think we do ours through one of the
and we'll make those
government
resources
sites.
available to anybody that needs them also. So yes, don't worry about that sort of thing. We will help you with those if you need that.
Brilliant. Right, and I'm going to get on.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much.
Good
Are
to
there
see
any
you.
further questions? Hard to know if people are still there.
Great. I just wanted to double check because I missed. In regards to the whole 4 hours, 4 days bit, how does that translate across to the virtual stuff? Are you looking for 4 hours of continuous stuff across different providers together, or?
No, so what we'll do, I think I just said, so ideally we'll be putting together a program which will be a menu of different providers. It feels about right to say about an hour and a half, but I've had providers say that I think we had it on the chat, someone would maybe provide something different and how that came together. If it needs to be longer and you can make it last longer, then brilliant. If it needs to be shorter, we can definitely be flexible with what is the right level of time to hold the kids online. I've had some providers say that those sort of this younger age group, the 5 to 8s, more than an hour and you've lost them, and then so we can totally understand that.